Hey everyone, my name's Walter, and we're back here with more stories from Reddit. Reddit Relationships is the subreddit to leave stories about your problems with relationships. It doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic relationship, but most of the ones I cover are. We also might cover stories from relationship advice. I have no idea what the difference is. Well anyway, shall we get started? This is Reddit Relationships, SoupTube. This story is the main event, but it won't be the only one today. It was deleted from relationship advice because it was making the rounds on Twitter, but thanks to this poster, I found the text for it over on Reddit Copypasta. Now, if you haven't heard this yet, whatever you're thinking SoupTube is, it's dumber than that. So much dumber. My 25 female, boyfriend, 25 male, keeps asking me to invest in his SoupTube business idea, and I'm not sure how to deal with it. I've been living with my boyfriend for about 7 months. 2 weeks ago, he sat me down and presented a PowerPoint presentation with his business idea. I knew he'd been working on an idea, but he didn't want to tell me about it until it was finished. Based on his enthusiasm and his prior seemingly intelligent nature, I thought maybe it'd be a pretty cool idea. Instead, he presented me an idea about soup tubes. The idea, if you can call it that, is to construct a series of tubes throughout our city that leads to centralized soup kitchens. For a monthly subscription, a customer can subscribe to a tube of soup, and a tube extension would be built off the nearest mainline tube and directly into the customer apartment or home. Based on subscription level, that would determine the quantity of soup a customer can pour and how many types of soup. The tubes are basically the size of pipes, like you might see under a sink, but he insisted that it must be called soup tube, not soup pipe. Tube just zings better. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. At first I asked if he was crank-yanking me or something, but he was completely sincere. Obviously the idea is completely insane. The notion that the city would authorize somebody to construct a series of tubes everywhere that carry soup into homes is of course ludicrous. And even if such an initiative were approved, the cost for such an operation would be ridiculous. You would have to charge outrageous prices for customers to install and subscribe to a soup tube. And who would pay for such a service when canned soup costs like $1 or $2? Or you can buy soup from a restaurant for a few dollars. I explained these things as politely as I could, but he dismissed them at all, said that tube-based soup delivery is the wave of the future. He then asked me how much I wanted to invest, and I told him nothing, and he looked absolutely heartbroken. Since then, almost every day, he has asked me again to invest, and keeps trying to sell me on the idea. He is also doing the same thing to a lot of his friends. It's starting to drive me up a wall. First, I am at a loss as to how he can believe such a stupid idea is worthwhile. Second, it is really goddamn annoying to be asked on a daily basis to invest in a system of soup tubes. And third, I am also concerned for his sanity. Other than his apparent obsession with this, though, he has shown no other signs. I would like some advice as to how I can reason with him, or whether I should even continue this relationship. Yeah, the author pretty much tore it apart for me. The only question remaining is how something like this could possibly be sanitary. I'm thinking it couldn't. How would one clean the tubes? How would one pass safety inspections with an underground series of unrefrigerated tubes? Who would trust clam chowder from a tube? Who? Why, in a world of 5 competing food delivery services, would somebody pay real money to have lukewarm soup push through the remnants of other soups from previous soup mishaps in a style similar to raw sewage? I don't even care if this is real. This is the greatest post I've ever read. In a sea of cheating and 13-year-olds airing their dating grievances, soup tubes is a breath of fresh air. If this is real, sit his ass down and tell him the many issues with his idea. He's a grown man and should be able to handle it. If he can't, then you've got bigger problems. I think that sounds like what she already did pretty much. I don't know what else there is to do at this point. This next story is one that's similar to the soup tube. It's from September of last year, so almost a year ago now. Wow, time's passing so fucking fast this year, isn't it? My 32 female, husband 36 male, wants to start a restaurant for magicians, and it is tearing our family apart. I've been with my partner for 8 years. We have a 4-year-old son and a 2-year-old daughter. Our relationship has been a little rocky, partly due to his highly demanding job in the restaurant industry. But we love each other deeply and always will. He has been the head chef of a relatively successful restaurant for 3 years now, and is the only source of income for our family, since I left my job in the charity sector to look after our children. For the past 4 or so months, he has been floating the idea of starting a restaurant for magicians, with increasing seriousness and dedication. It is not obvious what this entails, so I ought to explain. He envisions a restaurant which, unbeknownst to the general public, is littered with magical props, levitating tables, bending cutlery, and torn and restored menus, to name a few. The meals served to customers could be requested to have particular playing cards secreted inside, to allow for spectacular reveals, and if you ask a waiter to think of a card, he will always say the 7 of Hearts. The idea here, it seems, is to allow for an environment where men on dates, who are in on the scheme, are able to impress their companions with seemingly spontaneous magic tricks requiring little skill, or where amateur magicians can go to perform relaxed impromptu shows. I'm going to reserve my commentary on the merit of this idea until later. I imagine you can guess, but I should explain that my husband has never shown a remote interest in magic until around 4 months ago, when he met his friend, who in this post we will call Chris. Chris is something of a magic enthusiast, and since meeting him, my husband has become encapsulated by this idea. I am using this throwaway account because Chris is an avid Reddit user. Over the past 2 weeks, Chris has convinced my husband that he ought to quit his job and use all of our savings to start this restaurant, which would burden our family with an enormous amount of financial uncertainty. We had a huge fight about this 2 nights ago, during which I said some things that I have come to regret, insulting his restaurant idea, his cooking, and his new friend Chris. During this fight, my husband argued that he ought to be allowed to follow his dreams, and that his idea is good because Chris came up with it, and Chris is a magician, and magicians are smart. This honestly does not seem like the man I fell in love with, who is creative but also pragmatic and level-headed. His fixation on Chris seems to have massively clouded his judgment, and I don't believe it is possible to rely on this restaurant for magicians idea to feed our family of 4. How can I convince my husband that this idea is bad without hurting him or damaging our relationship? He is incredibly sensitive about it and would seemingly jump through 1,000 hoops to come to the defense of Chris, a person he did not know just 4 months ago. Okay, this isn't quite as bad of an idea as the soup tube. Specifically themed restaurants have obviously been pretty successful before. I just wonder how many girls want their date to just randomly start doing magic tricks. And what would it even look like with everyone over at their table levitating cards at the same time? To be fair, I don't even know any wizards, let alone magicians. People in the comments here are suggesting that this is a manic idea from someone who's bipolar, or perhaps that he's doing coke with his magician friend. I don't know, I'm having trouble seeing this idea as a success. Be sure to let me know what you think in the comments, though. Next, I'm covering a story from Am I the Asshole? I guess I didn't warn you that I might do that. Am I the asshole for trying to test a girl's nerd? I usually censor the name, but it's a throwaway anyway, so I'd like to point out that this user is named My Fault Always. A bit of foreshadowing there, maybe. Throwaway account. I, 20 male, don't think I did anything wrong, but my friends are all saying I'm an asshole. So I have a group of friends, and we're quite frankly nerds. We met this girl I'll call L 2 years ago. The other guys all like her, think she's great, and she knows all things we're into, but I had a feeling she's not really one of us. I put up with it for 2 years, but I can't shake the feeling. So the last time we were together before quarantine, I decided to test her nerd. She seemed surprised, but could answer all of my questions until I got to Star Trek. I was feeling pretty confident until she asked me to clarify. Apparently I misspoke and accidentally asked a trick question. My friends all jumped on me and accused me of being an asshole, and she didn't need to pass some test to hang out with them and how I needed to get over it. Another friend pointed out that I wasn't the guardian of the group. I got mad no one was on my side and left. Quarantine happened shortly after, and I recently found out they've all been chatting with her. I told her I didn't appreciate her trying to steal my friends. She never replied, but one of my friends bitched at me for a while. I got mad no one was listening to me and said it's her or me. He said her. None of my other friends have messaged me since. My brother says I was trying to be king of the nerds and gatekeeping and should apologize. I don't think I have anything to apologize for, and they should apologize for not hearing me out. So tell me, am I the asshole for just trying to make sure Elle was actually a nerd like us? Edited to add. I knew I shouldn't have posted on here, you guys don't get it. I am not going to apologize for being suspicious of her intentions and being angry my so-called friends bailed on me for some chick they've only known for 2 years. I was not gatekeeping. I was just trying to make sure she wasn't trying to be trendy. Screw this, I won't be back. I will never understand this nerd gatekeeping some guys feel that they have to do. Sometimes they're straight up bitter that girls never had these kind of interests back in high school or whatever, but I still don't see how it benefits them to try to ostracize all women from their group. Thankfully, my friends have never done any of this as far as I can tell. Just think about it, if this story is real, this guy just lost his whole friend group over this. The Inquisition itself must have been really awkward to watch too. Okay, I like my videos to be a bit longer these days, so let's read one more story. This one was removed from Am I the Asshole, presumably due to a violent threat being in the story. Oh no. Am I the asshole for yelling at my fiancé? She got a tattoo of my dead wife. Repost because of word limit. I was married to my first wife, M, for 2 years before she was taken from me too soon. It was a hit and run, and justice never came to fruition. For a long time I struggled, but I persevered. After 5 years I met C. She was a wonderful woman and I liked her, but I wasn't sure if I was ready or completely over M. C knew about M, but never had an opportunity to meet her. As soon as she heard about what I've been through, C was super attentive and checking up on me. A year after knowing each other, we started dating. We dated for about 1.5 years when she proposed to me. She has always been so nurturing and caring towards me. Our relationship was going good, so I said yes. Our wedding was going to be on July 17th, but we canceled early June due to you-know-what. We didn't get a deposit back on our venue, but that's okay. We agreed we'd rather wait until it's safe so all of our loved ones could be present. June 23rd rolls around, C says she has to go to an appointment. I asked about it and she said that the appointment was a gift for me that she was going to reveal to me at our wedding. She said the appointment was hard to get and she was on a waiting list for a long time, so she couldn't pass this up. I said fine, figured she'd get whatever the gift is settled and then hold on to it until things clear up and then we can safely get married. She comes back later that afternoon, was gone like 6 hours, and just as we're getting to bed, she asked me to sit down and said she wants to give me my gift early. She took off her shirt and showed a bandage under her left breast / on her ribcage, and I immediately felt my heart drop. It was a tattoo of M, a very poorly done tattoo of M. The only reason I knew it was her for sure was because of the fact that under the tattoo was the original anniversary date for M and I, that I still celebrated, with C's support. I lost it. I asked what the fuck she did and said this was crossing the line. She immediately burst into tears and started crying, but I couldn't calm down. I packed my shit and the entire time I just kept asking if this was some sort of sick joke, if she was crazy, etc. I left to go stay with my brother. It's been over a month now and I get texts daily from her family. Her brother even threatened to kick the ever-living shit out of me. I've tried to block all their numbers, but several of her friends and family members keep using burner numbers, I'm guessing texting apps, to send me daily reminders on how I'm apparently abusive. Am I the asshole? God no, that is some seriously insane shit. I don't know what she could have been thinking. I'm not even sure if I'm calling her the asshole, but this guy's response was valid. Jesus Christ. Well anyway, that's about all the time I have for you today. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you liked the video, please give it a like. If you have something to say about one of the stories, let me hear it in the comments. The algorithm loves engagement. If you're new here and want more Reddit stories from me, with the occasional video on a person, consider subscribing for more of the same. You know, I was going to shout out my patrons now, but the site doesn't really seem to be working today. Well, the first is a really shitty day to be doing that anyway, so I guess we'll just have to wait till next time. I do have patrons who help me out with demonetization, though. I will be thanking them very soon here. I'll just say fuck one more time and thanks. Anyway, there should be more content soon. Let me know if you like relationships and Am I the Asshole? I might start covering these things more often now that the views are getting a little better. Have a great day, everyone, and make sure you subscribe to SoupTube, a great new business idea that's pretty much the wave of the future.